Having received a bachelor's, a master's, and a doctorate's degree by the age of 22, Dr. John Nash was once considered the most promising young mathematician in the world. But he suddenly started seeing things and hearing voices that were not real. He would have to fight off schizophrenia before being able to fulfill his potential. Hello Storyticians! Today we are going to dive into the life of John Nash, the genius, promising mathematician who suffered from schizophrenia. John Forbes Nash was born on June 13, 1928, in Bluefield, West Virginia, to an electrical engineer and a Latin teacher. From a young age, it was clear that John was, well, different. In many aspects, he was just an odd kid. It became clear that he was an intellectual prodigy, but he didn't excel as a student. One of his teachers said this about him: he read constantly, he played chess, he whistled entire Bach melodies. Sooner rather than later, the people around John started realizing that he was straight up bored in school. That was probably because his mind was way beyond what he was being taught in the classroom. One day, while in high school, he picked up the book Men of Mathematics and casually proved a Fermat theorem. This was a clear indicator of what he was capable of. John then went to the university. He signed up to study engineering at the now called Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. Nevertheless, his professors soon realized his mathematical prowess and strongly encouraged him to transfer to a mathematics degree. John agreed and switched. He received a bachelor's and a master's degree at Carnegie and then moved to Princeton University. At the time, everyone admired this place. Many dreamed of becoming the next Einstein or Newman, both of whom were roaming the Princeton campus and meeting at the Fine Hall not long ago. The math department at Princeton was heaven for lots of young and talented students. That being said, John continued to repeat some of his odd habits in his everyday life. He was constantly roaming around the halls alone, walking off in the middle of a conversation, reading a lot, playing chess all the time, and whistling incessantly. He was tall and good-looking, and he soon became known for his odd habits, intellectual arrogance, and fierce ambition. By the age of 22, John Nash had already received a bachelor's and master's degree at Carnegie, and he completed a doctorate degree at Princeton. In this time, he invented a game known as Nash that obsessed the mathematicians at the Fine Hall Common Room. He also developed a 27-page long math solution as a doctoral thesis at the age of 21. In this work, he was developing a method of predicting the results of a game with multiple players acting in self-interest. Does he make you feel like you've done nothing with your life? Don't worry, we also felt that way. Interestingly, he went to see Einstein at some point to discuss an idea he had on gravity, though it seems like Einstein didn't agree too much with this idea. Long story short, John Nash was an absolute genius. The contributions he made in his early 20s have impacted economies worldwide. He even insisted on teaching himself because he considered learning from others to be second-hand contact with mathematics. Nash's career was on the rise. After receiving his doctorate's degree, and still far too young, he started consulting for a corporation while also teaching at MIT and researching mathematics on his own. Everything was going perfectly until things started to get complicated. Nash started having problematic relationships in his personal life. He managed to marry Alicia Lard in 1957 after being in an on-and-off relationship with her, but everything was about to change. While his wife was pregnant with their son, John took a wild turn from a brilliant genius to a destructive being. In this moment, Dr. John Nash started suffering from schizophrenia. Suddenly, he fell into a world of paranoia and delusion. He started acting a lot weirder. At the end of 1958, there was a New Year's party, and Nash attended wearing only a diaper and a sash that said 1959. Most of the evening, he stayed curled up like a baby on his wife's lap. Starting classes in January, he began his lecture by asking students why they were there. He left the class for a few weeks and then returned, claiming that he had solved an encrypted message from outer space written in a New York Times paper and that the message was meant only for him. Soon, people realized that Nash was suffering from a mental disorder. Alicia had to hospitalize her husband in a psychiatric medical center against his will. When he was released, he resigned from everything and left for Europe, planning to also resign from his United States citizenship. Alicia heroically went to Europe looking for her vulnerable husband, leaving their newborn child with her mother. Eventually, she was able to deport him back to the US. When they came back, Nash continued to act strangely. He talked to people who weren't there. He paced around campus referring to himself in the third person as Johann von Nassau, and he wrote nonsensical letters to former colleagues, as well as calling them to discuss a wider range of topics without end. For the next few years, John was treated with different therapies, some more dangerous than others, but none of them worked. He had some periods where it seemed he was recovering, but he always went back to his berserk behaviours. In the book A Celebration to John Nash, it is said that he was the most promising young mathematician in the world, but that he soon felt that the staff at my university, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and later all of Boston, were behaving strangely towards me. I started to see crypto-communists everywhere. I started to think I was a man of great religious importance, and to hear voices all the time. I began to hear something like telephone calls in my head, from people opposed to my ideas. The delirium was like a dream from which I seemed never to wake. Thankfully, in the 1990s, John was able to recover from most of his illness. At the same time, the Nobel Prize Committee started investigating awarding Nash for his developments and contributions to economics. He eventually received the 1994 Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences for his work on game theory. John Nash was thereafter accoladed with many awards. His impressive story and harsh struggle have touched millions of souls around the world. Lots of books, movies, and articles have been made about him. His work has been recognized by major institutions, and they influence theoretical and practical fields to this day. Thanks to him, schizophrenia has gained much more attention, and what people who suffer from it go through now is much better understood. What do you think about Dr. John Nash's story? Have you watched his movie or read the book? You can let us know in the comments section. We'll be around reading your thoughts. Although this story might be difficult to digest, you might be looking for another one already. Do not hesitate to watch this one. A blind kid becomes a musical prodigy, but he has to recover from a terrible accident to continue his career. Click here to watch that now. If you want to become a storytician and a supporter of our channel, become a subscriber. Now, go on to live the most exciting of all stories, the story of your life. See you next time.